Welcome to Carpool Conversations, where our goal is to equip parents to have meaningful, Christ-centered conversations with their kids. I'm Amy Lowe.
And I am Sarah Jones, and today we're going to be talking about how to help our kids develop big hearts and calm minds.
Big hearts and calm minds, and much more than that.
Absolutely.
Those are two things I definitely want for my kids. We're going to be talking about anxiety and kindness and other topics today with our guest because she's a wealth of information, and she's going to share a number of different helpful things with us because she is so intentional in her parenting, and we want to learn from her. We recently came into contact, or at least I did, with Ammie. She was asked at the last minute to come and help us out at our WinShape Camps event called Host Rally, where we bring in all of our churches to come and learn about, get ready for camp for that year. And one of the folks that we had asked to speak, I think, had a medical emergency at the last minute. And so we found Ammie and called her, and she was able to come at last minute. And I kept getting texts.
You did?
I didn't see her at that event, but I kept getting texts from people that said, we need to have her on the podcast. We need to ask her to come on the podcast. And so I was able to get in contact with her and chatted with her, and she's so gracious to come and join us today and to share some of her wisdom with us. So that's our connection and how we got her to come hang out with us today.
Yeah.
We're so glad you're here.
Well, and I'm thrilled to be here. When I got the call about speaking at the conference, for a minute I was like, okay, so tell me who this audience is and what kind of message are you looking for them to hear? And when I heard who was going to be in the room, my immediate response was, oh my gosh, these are my people. These are my people.
Yeah, I'm glad he got to come.
Yeah.
Ammie, I'm just going to let our listeners know a little bit about your background and who you are. So Ammie Akin is a career educator with a background spanning all levels of administration, from elementary to high school and college. She has served as a teacher, elementary administrator, assistant superintendent, college professor, and most recently, you were the interim superintendent at Briarwood Christian School. Ammie's experience spans 22 years with 18 years in upper-level school leadership. Ammie completed her undergraduate training at the College of Education at the University of Alabama in Tuscaloosa. She earned a doctorate degree in education leadership at Stanford University. Ammie has taught in adjunct staff, both undergraduate and graduate level courses at University of Alabama at Birmingham, UAB, and Stanford University. Love this. Personally, Ammie and her husband, Will, you manage a fun-filled trio of boys. I can't. Jack, who's 13, George is 11, and Henry is 7. Woo! You can be spotted cheering on the Lions of Briarwood Christian School or tubing the channel, the wake on your pontoon at Lake Tuscaloosa. So it sounds like you're busy.
Yeah, we're busy. I was just thinking as you were reading those things, I thought, I forgot I did those things. Maybe I was checked out when I was doing those things. I don't know. That sounded like a lot.
It sounds like you love school. You love learning.
I love school and I love learning. And if I didn't think it would cause issues in my family, I think I'd like to go to law school.
Yes.
But I probably should not do that right now.
Cause issues. Yes. Yes.
Yes. We got a few things on our plate with the boys. And just from one athletic activity to the next. And this one needs the shepherd outfit for the Christmas program. And this one has basketball tryouts. And did I leave someone at school? All the things.
Yes. You probably feel like a professional taxi, Uber driver, right? I feel that.
Yeah, taxi, Uber driver. I always say at dinner time, this isn't Burger King where you can have it your way. Because
Amen.
I do feel like, it's all the things.
Yes.
I work at a restaurant. I drive a taxi.
Yes, you do.
Just just name it.
You do. I would actually love to know, what is your favorite thing about this stage of parenting? Because it's always changing, but right now, like, what's your favorite thing in this stage?
Yeah, you always hear people and they'll say, oh, you're going to miss it. You're going to miss it. Love it when it's like this. And, I truly feel like I have loved every stage. Mm-hmm. And as I move to the next stage, there's always a little bit of grief, or the, iPhone, the picture pops up and it's, the sweet baby and the baby swing. And I'm like, oh, where did my baby go? Mm-hmm. And then, like right now, 13, 11, and 7, like this morning, as I took my 13-year-old to school, we talked about the NFL draft and who he thinks is going to go in the first round, and is Jalen Milroe going to be in the top? And, with my middle, like, he's sharing with me like the things he's noticing on the playground, and the way kids interact with each other. And then my little, who's still my little, he's growing up, but in such a mature way. And this is not a pat on Ammie Akin's back, but Easter Sunday, I watched my 7-year-old hold his hands in the air during worship. And it's like, oh my goodness. Yeah, I miss the baby, and, they're not little anymore, but oh my gosh, I got to see my 7-year-old worship. Like, I love this. Mm-hmm. I love this. I love seeing who they are becoming and who God has created them to be.
Yeah.
Slowing down to notice the differences in each child. It's fun to get to know them. They're my kids. I know them, but to really get to know who they are and who Christ created them to be.
Yeah. And I love that so much. Taking in those moments and not letting them pass you by is such a big thing. And I love how you said that every stage of parenting that you get to go through, you love. And I completely agree. My kids are around the same ages of yours, and I love it. And you never know what they're going to say. Like, you never know what's going to, I know them so well, but also it's just like, where did that come from? And it's so fun to just get a little peek into their brain and what they're thinking, and live in that world with them.
It's fun and sometimes shocking at the same time. Sometimes I think my boys say things to me just so that they can see the reaction on my face when they say it.
Yes.
But we have really tried to establish open communication with our boys. And with that comes, sometimes they say things to us and we go, how do I respond without looking shocked or oh, thank you so much for sharing this with me. Mm-hmm. So it's the fun conversations, and it's the things that they say, and thank goodness they're bringing it to us, but then like kind of grab at your heart. Almost grab your heart in the same way when the baby picture, pops up on social media. Yes. It's almost that same kind of like, oh, I miss it. And when they bring things to us now that are really hard things, it's almost that same, oh my gosh, kind of feeling in your gut.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you still working on your poker face, Sarah?
Oh, yeah. My husband is a therapist, and I wear what I'm feeling on my face, and I'm very animated. And so when I react, he's like, you have got to keep a straight face. He calls it the poker face. He's like, you cannot react. You've got to be, oh, that's interesting. So he said, but internally you can be flipping out, but you are cool, calm, and collected. Tell me more.
Is it working though? Do you feel like you're getting better at it?
I'm getting better. Mm-hmm. Okay. I realized that it was kind of a caution for my daughter to stop sharing. And so I knew that I had to, if I wanted to be a safe place for her to share, I had to work on the face.
Yeah, I love that.
They sure are. Many parents, Ammie, I know, have read or are reading the book, The Anxious Generation. We just finished it. A couple of people at work, we had a book club where we finished it. And I learned a ton through the book, The Anxious Generations, the research findings, and I know you did as well. But I would love for you to talk about how the Bible is telling us the exact same things. So no wonder it's kind of like resonating with so many people. But I would love to know, tell us what you mean by you can find the same truths in the Bible.
Yeah, so I love when my career intersects with my faith.
Yes.
And the majority of my career has been spent in the public sector. And while I'm a believer and I lead with my faith, I haven't always been able to talk specifically about that. And so when something like The Anxious Generation comes out, and it's not a faith-based book, but it is truly, the content in the book is intersecting what we know about what the Bible calls us to as parents and raising this generation. It's incredible. And it's an incredible opportunity for us as believers to share what the Bible says about parenting. The book is incredible. I mean, it truly is. And it's filled with all of these facts. But I've often said, like, lately, is anyone surprised by what's in the book? And look, what these researchers have done is amazing. And the longitudinal studies and the data, I mean, this is a lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not minimizing that. I'm just saying, is anyone surprised by that?
Mm-hmm.
Because we shouldn't be. Because if we slow down, we really could have written kind of the research ourselves. So what do we do with that? And I think here's the good news. And Anxious Generation book says this. And we as believers, we believe in renewal. My goodness, we just celebrated the resurrection and new life on Sunday. And so this is not this current state of our children and the lack of connection and all these things that we're talking about. This isn't irreversible. Like, we can reverse this. And the Anxious Generation says that. And guess what? We experience that as believers. It's the resurrection. It's the renewal. So what do we have to do? What do we have to do as parents? Well, I think one is we have to go to the Bible. And again, I said earlier, this isn't complicated. It's simple. We have this book of instructions, but how often do we go to the Bible? Or how often do we Google something? What should I do if my kid does X? Wonder if there's a book I can read about this, or a conference I can go to about this. And those are all good things. Like, there's nothing wrong with any of that. But what if we went to the back of our Bible where everything's listed with the page numbers and the scriptures and all the things, and we started reading? What if we did that? And so then, I'm reading it, right? But I'm just a mom. This is the first time I've had a 13-year-old, an 11-year-old, and a 7-year-old. And so I'm asking God for this guidance, and I'm reading in my Bible, and I'm going, oh my goodness, but I don't know. I don't know. God, tell me. And this is where we need a community around us, and a community of other moms. And I don't mean just moms that, oh, hey, how are you? It's so good to see you. Not those kind of moms. Those are good, and we have those, and we need to do that. Again, it goes back to kindness. We need to acknowledge other people, but we need a group around us that we can say, let me just tell you, when I was taking my son to school this morning, this is what he said to me. And I wanted to gasp for air, and I think my heart skipped a beat when it happened. I don't know what to do with this. I don't know what to do. Also, by doing that and opening up, whether it's for advice, maybe it's a mother that has moved through this stage in life, or maybe it's a mother of a peer. And I'm just saying, hey, my Jack, he brought this home to me, and I'm sharing this with you because they're buddies. And so what do we do as parents? What do we do? How do we come together to support these children? And there isn't there's not a prescription, like this is the way we all respond to X problem. The Holy Spirit has created all of us in unique ways. All of us, our children in unique ways. When God gave me Jack, George, and Henry, for all my faults, God knew I would be the right mother for those boys, for my boys. God knew that. And God knows that for all the moms and children. So how is the Holy Spirit speaking to us about our individual children? Through his word, and this community. And when I say community, I'm talking transparent community, not here's my Easter picture and everything is perfect. And I put one on my account because, everyone puts the Easter pictures. Everybody's dressed up and looks nice. And the one I put on my Facebook page, literally, my youngest has tears rolling down his face because I had just said to all three boys, like, if I could just get one picture, this would be over. Like, it would be over. And then the youngest wouldn't participate. So the oldest hit him in the back. And so then my response was, could you just like dry your eyes? Just dry your eyes. I'm asking for one photo.
Yeah.
And so that's a really simplistic example. Okay.
Yeah.
But like, that's the reality. Like, did I get a decent picture of the kids? Yes. Was it a perfect situation? No, it was not a perfect situation. And so I think we also are walking through life with that perfect Easter picture.
Mm-hmm.
And really what we're all dealing with inside is, hey, my kid brought this to me and I don't know what to do. And what if I tell this other mother, this is what my son brought to me? Will she say her son can't play with mine? Or, you know, what does that do for my relationship? Or will she question whether or not I'm a good mother? Like, we have to open up to one another and and listen, I've said this before too. These kids belong to all of us. Obviously, Jack, George, and Henry, I'm most responsible for my boys. But when their friends are in my house, when I'm in a school setting, like Christ has called us to develop these children. We're responsible for other children too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Discipleship.
Well,
yes, that's it.
And I love the vulnerability of you sharing those things with a trusted friend and how hard it is for us to do that because we're so isolated. And we have to take those steps to get out of your comfort zone and befriend people and let them see, you know, not with everybody, but with those people that you really do trust and are like-minded with. And I have found that to be harder than I thought it would be. And you have to just keep at it and keep working at it. I'm going to go to dinner tomorrow night with a gal. We're in the same season of parenting, and we had to work hard to get it on the books. And I think we're both looking forward to it, but it took work to do that. And I just think the more we want that to happen, you just have to be intentional. You have to work at it to do that and to be vulnerable and willing to share those things. It will pay off.
Well, that vulnerability, 100%. And I think we talk about that a lot. I think as Christians, we talk about take the mask off, transparency, vulnerability, and we're saying it, but are we doing it?
Right.
And what does it mean to actually be transparent? And what does it mean to truly show up for someone and hold with them what they're walking through? I mean, these are, that's tough. It's tough to sit across the table from another mother and say, hey, Kylie, 3 nights this week, it's been like this at my house. But by doing that, because it's probably going on at that house too,
it probably is.
It allows for this other mother to open up. One of the things I do, and I try to do this every time I'm walking into, whether it's a lunch meeting, something professional, or whether it's personal, God, what is it? What are you calling me to in this very moment? What are you calling me to at this coffee this morning, God? What are you calling me to when I go up to the school today and I, participate in the amazing shake? There is something, God, that you are calling me to in these moments. And sometimes the calling is to just be quiet and to absorb and notice and make eye contact and those things. And sometimes it truly is more of a deeper relationship, but it's not saying yes to everything. It's saying yes to what God's calling you to in that moment.
Yeah. And pausing long enough to let the Lord speak to you in those moments. That's a great pro tip that we just forget sometimes. So, okay. Also, we hate picture day in our house too. Okay. So you have talked about how you love the everyday moments of parenting. We've even talked about that a little bit. And like capitalizing on those moments and being intentional day in and day out, even if it's 2 steps forward and 1 step back, because that's still progress. What would you say to the folks listening about intentional moments of everyday parenting and why you love it?
Yeah, so I would say intentional moments, I love it, and it brings us closer to our kids, and certainly it brings us closer to God, because we cannot. That's not just some sweet Southern Ammie saying, I can't do this without God. I have to have God in order to do this, and certainly to be intentional. But the about 2 years ago, we walked through something really tough, and I was meeting with my counselor, and I said, I try to hold it together in front of my children because I don't want them to worry if mom is sad or mom is scared. Like I want to hold it together to create security for my children. And my counselor said to me, she said, Ammie, she said, one of the best things that you can do for your children is show them that you're a human and you need Jesus too. And so when I think about intentional parenting, yeah, it's listening to those questions and listening to them when they don't know you're listening, when they're talking to their friends or, you're dropping them off and you're seeing them high five. Yeah, we got to be intentional there. And we got to listen and we got to pick up and we've got to ask questions when we hear things. But we've also got to show them our need for Jesus. And man, oh my gosh, do I need Jesus?
Yeah.
And do I need Jesus every day in every single moment? And so when my counselor said that to me, it was almost like a burden had been lifted off of my shoulders, because God doesn't say anywhere in the Bible, Ammie, you have to have it all together in front of your children to be a good parent. It doesn't say that in the Bible. What it says is, Ammie, you're a sinner and you need me, Ammie. That's what it says. You need me to parent your children, Ammie. That's what it says. And so if I believe that in my soul and in my heart, and I do, then I have to model my need for Jesus. I have to be transparent in my home when I'm struggling, or, if someone has hurt my feelings, or if I'm angry and hey guys, I yelled at you when you were fighting and wrestling in the backyard, and I had to yell because y'all were yelling at each other. No, because that happens too. But no, just saying to my kids, like, hey, I raised my voice and I shouldn't have.
Yeah.
And I'm really sorry about that. And I've asked God for forgiveness, and I hope you can forgive me too. I think so often, or at least as, I think through maybe authority figures in my life, it has felt like such a top down. And of course we are, the responsible party and the authority over our children. But I see Jesus in the Bible open his hands and he says, let the children come. So what does that mean? How do we invite children into our arms? And emotionally, physically, all the things. How do we open our hands and invite them? And it's because we have to let our guard down, and we have to soften ourselves, and we have to be a safe place. And how can we be a safe place if we're the one that's got it together all the time? And these are the rules, and I'm perfect and I've never broken the rules. And not that we say that with our mouth, but I do think we say that through our actions. So yeah, that vulnerability, and I don't have all the answers. I told my 11-year-old the other day, I said, George, this is only the second time I've had an 11-year-old. And I said, Jack is so different than you. And Jack had different teachers and different friends. And I'm learning how to be the mom to a different 11-year-old than I've already had. I said, you're learning to be an 11-year-old, and I'm learning to be a mom to a different 11-year-old.
Yeah.
And we're learning it together.
So good. Such a good reminder. I early on in my parenting journey, when my first was like 6 months old, another mom said the greatest gift somebody ever told me was an app. It's called Wise Words for Moms, and it's biblical truths as we are parenting our kids. And it just changed my own heart. So every time that we would see like anger or selfishness or fighting with their sibling, we could go and find the scripture verse where we could help our kids in that moment. And it blessed my own soul as I'm leading my children or discipling them to know and love the Lord. The biblical truths in that app were just so good. I just loved them. So thank you for that. Okay. I know that you're passionate about kindness, and what a beautiful fruit of the Spirit, kindness. It's a quality that feels in short supply, especially with our kids. And I know you're in a school, so you have probably seen and heard it all. But I would love for you to talk to us about how we can work on intentionality with helping our kids to be kind and to live out that mindset?
Yeah. So, I mean, kindness is in short supply, and people are busy and hurried, and just phones and distractions, and the watch goes off or the phone goes off. And the research used to say that when we entered a new environment, that it would take about 15 minutes for our brain to adjust to that new environment. And so, I mean, that was like 25 years ago, what the research said. So when I think about that now, and I think about all the interruptions we have and all the different environments we're in, I'm like, how does our brain ever settle and figure out where we are? And so when we talk about being intentional about kindness, well, we have to be present first. And if we're never really settling, how can this kindness even happen? And so one of the things, we try to do at our house is we do this a lot. And one of the ways we do this is the relationship between the boys, because they're boys. They wrestle, they fight, they climb the walls. Like, people used to say, my kids climb the walls. Like, my children climb the door frames. Like,
Yes.
they do that. But one of the best ways I feel like we can work on kindness in our home is by helping our children appreciate the differences in the home. So when my boys are fighting, and, we separate them and pull them in, and we're trying to figure out what happened. But, I always try to end with, well, what do you notice, Jack? What do you notice about George? What do you notice about how he reacted to that situation? That maybe God created him in a way that his uniqueness, the way God created him, is why he's reacting in this way. So what do you notice? The positive, not the negative. And I think what we have to do just over and over every day, as often as we can, point out to our children what is unique about people, what is unique and good. We're very involved with a local ministry. It's Unless You, it's for adults with developmental disabilities. And that has been probably one of the best ways. And that's not even Ammie. That's not Will. That's our boys experiencing something outside of our home. But volunteering there and showing up to events and really interacting with these adults with special needs. And one of the things my boys will always say is, they'll say, Mom, everyone there is always smiling. Everyone there is friends with everyone. They just had a talent show, and when they announced the winner, everybody thought they won. Like, there was no that person won over me. Like, there was this huge celebration at the Unless You talent show on the stage. And so I said to the boys, well, what does that show us? Like, how do we live like Unless You? How do we live like these adults with special needs who truly love, and they love deeply? And my oldest said to me, he said, Mom, it's because they love each other's differences. They love, like, one can play the piano, so they all love that, and they all notice that. Or one is a cheerleader, and they love that when she cheers, she actually sings. And he said, Mom, I think it's that they notice the differences and they love those differences. And so what is it in our day-to-day life? What is it in our kids' day-to-day lives when you notice there are differences all around us? But what do you love about that difference? What do you love about that quality in someone? And when you love someone, kindness comes easy. And that's what God calls us to, is he calls us to love. And redirecting our boys when they come home from school and they're mad. Okay, well, did you think about what could have happened in his home this morning? So how could you extend grace? How could you extend kindness? What does that look like? Kindness, I keep saying the word kindness, but what does it mean to truly notice what God has done, what God's work is? Like, God is an artist. So how do we notice what God has created? Not the world, not what, the world says, but what did God, when he knit these people, when he knit this child together, when he knit this teacher together, or whatever it is, what is it? What is it that God made? What is it that God put in that person that's so special? And let's find that. I tell my kids it's like a mystery. It's like a hunt to figure out. To figure out what makes that person special.
I love that. I love that perspective, because it is so easy for us to just go straight to the negative and go straight to the reasons why they get on our nerves or why they just push our buttons. But pausing to look for that positive, I think, probably goes a huge way. So I think that's so neat. Okay, Ammie, as we wrap, I remember you told me a story about bluebonnets. My husband is from Texas. We see them when we go visit. He actually has a song about them that I'm not going to sing that you probably know. But the message of the story that you shared was so good, and I think it's a great reminder for parents and an encouragement to them. So I'd love for you to share that story with them.
Yeah, sure. And I'll tell you, I always get nervous when somebody says they're from Texas, like right before I tell the bluebonnet story, because I'm like, maybe the person from Texas needs to share it. And I'll tell you, I've got something exciting coming up this weekend. I'm actually going to Austin, Texas, for a generous giving conference. And so I'm going to actually get to see the bluebonnets. So I'm really excited about that. I think they're kind of towards the end, but I'm really excited about that. But if you don't know about bluebonnets, if you're not from Texas or you haven't heard me speak, and I tell this story a lot, I want to share this story because I do think that God shows us who He is. We just have to pause to see it. And bluebonnets, they're really interesting. So the bluebonnet seed almost looks like a small pebble. It's a tough seed. I just planted some zinnias, and they're like kind of flighty, like leaves. Bluebonnet seeds are tough. Very, very tough. So if you take a bluebonnet seed, let's say I have a whole package of bluebonnet seeds and I just scatter them all over the place. The seeds are going to all germinate at different times. You may say, oh yeah, well, all seeds germinate at different times. True, but not like this. I'm talking like one seed may germinate like this year, and then like 3 or 4 other seeds may not germinate for months or years later. Okay, so what causes one seed to germinate over another seed? Well, we have to allow for the water and the sun to get into the seed, right? Well, if these seeds are like rocks, they have to kind of be chipped away at in order for the water and the sun to get to the seed. And this is one of the reasons I love this story, and I feel like it's such a picture of what our lives are. But some of the most beautiful bluebonnet fields happen after these fires kind of blow through a field. I mean, the fires, they crack the seed, and then the sun and the water can get in, and then there's this field of bluebonnets. So after a fire, after harsh conditions, we have the beauty of a bluebonnet field. And so as I think about just parenting and children, and I think about just, the moms and dads that listen to this podcast, like our children, they're all going to germinate at different times. We are, if we're using this as an example. But imagine if we all worked together and we helped cultivate these seeds. If when our kids face fire or trials or difficult conditions, what if we were the water and the sun? What if we were the water and the sun for these children? What if we were the water and the sun for each other? Can you imagine if all of these seeds, what if it's us as parents? What if we're the bluebonnet field? Imagine the scattered seeds coming from our home, and how many fields might be all over the world and cover the earth. But we have to be the sun, and we have to be the water for others, for moms and dads, and for our children. And a lot of times the beauty will come from the fire. And I'm really excited that I'm going to get to see some bluebonnet fields. I actually met a lady when I was at the conference, the WinShape conference. I met a lady who's from Texas. And after I shared the story, she approached me and she said, "Oh my gosh, when you come to Texas, you've got to go to these bluebonnet fields." And we've stayed in touch, and I hope she's listening. And
Sweet.
maybe we can connect when I'm in Austin this weekend.
Oh, you're going to love it. My sister lives in Texas, north of Austin, and we went to visit in the springtime after I'd had my first. She was 3 months old, and I have a picture of her printed in my house of her laying on a blanket surrounded by bluebonnets. And so I'm not going to forget your story as I am parenting her, discipling her, because I have a picture of her in bluebonnets. Yeah. It's the first and only time I've ever seen them. But they're stunning.
Well, I had seen the pictures online and just the story. But when I talked to that sweet friend that I met at that WinShape conference, and she talked about what it was like to walk through those bluebonnet fields, golly, it's just such a picture of God's beauty and God's creation and what he's doing in all of our lives through the fire and the trials and the rough conditions. He's the sun and he's the water, and we can be that for our children, and we can be that for other parents as well.
Yeah, that's so good. So good. Ammie, thank you so much for being with us today. Just your wisdom, your discernment, your the experiences that you've had as a mom, and just the way that you are loving your boys. Thank you so much for being with us. We end with a question for parents that they can take back to their families, the dinner table, in the car, that they can ask their kids to just be more intentional and to learn to be a student of their hearts. And so today's question as we end is, who is the kindest person you encounter at school? Or you can pick another location. But what specific things do they do that made you think of them as really kind? And so we love the kindness, the fruits of the spirit of kindness. And so I pray that this would be a blessing to your family as you get the conversation started. Thanks for listening.